And we're back.
We're back.
More incredible Hokes. I'm Chris.
I am Mark.
Coming to you from the man cave. And I sound sad because football is officially over for you and me.
Right?
Cowboys did not advance to the championship game.
No.
Since we only root for the Cowboys and the Titans, that means the season is now over for us.
Yeah.
So, discuss. What do you think of the game? I'll post this one like either tonight or first thing Monday morning. So discuss your thoughts and feelings on Green Bay, Dallas.
Right. Well, I think all Cowboys fans have some mixed emotions at this moment. I'm no different. 13-3, it's a good season. You just hate to keep getting that close and trying to make a Super Bowl run because they're rare, especially since the last 20 years for the Cowboys. This is not a Tom Landry
It's not to be taken for granted.
Cowboys. This is a don't know when we'll be back kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Dak could easily next year totally just,
Or an injury.
Just have a second year slump.
Yeah.
You just don't know. So you want to make the most of it. So I know in my heart it's a good season. It had a lot of outstanding things, particularly from the offensive side of the ball. Defensive, they had moments where they really stepped up, surprisingly so, because they had very little to work with. Sean Lee was a rock all year, so you can be happy about that.
Right.
David Irving looks like he might be a keeper in terms of being a defensive end and rushing the passer. So anyway,
He rushed the Reverend through his sermon.
rushed the Reverend. Yes, we'll call him the Reverend David Irving. So anyhow, I'm clearly disappointed. The Packers game, clearly our defense started cold and spotted the Packers 21 points before they really started playing, and that's, for my opinion, why we lost that game. You just can't spot a good team like that 21 points. They gave it a great effort the following three quarters, but they came up short. Even that final drive, they needed one more stop of Aaron Rodgers. They let him get out of the pocket, scramble, bought time, and we've seen this before, and the season was over.
Well, here, obviously they need help on defense. But I think what's bothering me more than anything is, and we have talked about this before. I know we've talked about it with each other. I don't know if we've talked about it on camera or not.
All right.
Maybe I have, but as of this recording at halftime of the Chiefs-Steelers game, the Steelers are winning 12-7, I believe.
Right.
And if they go on to win, that puts Steelers at New England.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, in the NFC, you have Green Bay at Atlanta.
Right.
Now, Atlanta aside, the other three teams are very familiar with the championship game.
Right.
Especially in the free agency era, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a hard time with this whole parity thing when the same franchises keep getting there. It's very frustrating as a fan.
Right.
So Atlanta is new blood somewhat. They did have a number one seed all overall a few years ago. I think Seattle knocked them off or something in the playoffs. Something like that, if I remember correctly. Or no, it wasn't Seattle. Somebody knocked them off. I can't remember who knocked them off in the playoffs, in the championship game or something like that. Anyway, so but nevertheless, they're still new blood somewhat. So, like, this whole talk of parity, well, we're going to have Brady and Rodgers in the championship game again. Right. Probably going to have Roethlisberger. Very good chance we'll have Roethlisberger in the championship game again.
Right.
This whole parity thing is just not true. It's the same old franchises every year. It's very frustrating to be an NFL fan when the same, say, 6 franchises are always the ones really competing. It's just daunting. You always got the Giants, the Ravens, the Patriots, the Steelers, the Packers, so on and so forth, are always contention. So I'm just very frustrated with the NFL now. I have been for the last 3 or 4 years. Just, I don't know. As time gets busier, my interest wanes.
The whole point of the salary cap era, they said, was the NFL had too many dynasties, so we need to spread that wealth. And they didn't want a George Steinbrenner type owner like the Yankees had, and someone who could just get out their checkbook and just sign all the best players and have that kind of a thing. So they didn't want that. And so they come up with the whole salary cap thing. There was a level playing field. Whatever I think currently it's 145 million is the salary cap, something like that. So everybody can spend 145 million. It's up to you to manage it and do this, and so it's a level playing field. That's their point of view. But I think the reality is, no, you just changed which teams would be the dynasties, because there's dynasties right now. Don't kid yourself.
Yeah.
And the Cowboys are not one of them. And as far as I'm concerned, you look at the TV ratings. I think the NFL needs to look at that. You know, they may want to rethink that.
You know, the flippant answer is, well, those teams just need to get better. You know, they're doing something right they're not doing. And I'm like, is that really it? Really? You're telling me behind the scenes something ain't going on? You know, every year it's the same handful of teams. I'm just saying, I'd like to see some stats of the most recurring teams in the free agency era.
Right.
I think you'll be surprised how it's dominated by about 6 teams. You know, Denver, Pittsburgh, New England, Green Bay, Baltimore. Who else? The Giants. It's been pretty dominated by a handful of teams.
Well, you made a point early in the season to me that the Cowboys in this salary cap era, that you thought their defense was like, look, they can still win with. You don't have to have the dominating defense.
Sure.
They're good enough in this era, and you gave examples, and I been thinking about that. Well, I think there might be some truth to that, because there are teams that just seem to, their defense don't wow you, but somehow they end up in the playoffs or in the hunt every year.
New England's defense isn't wowing.
No, they've had many Super Bowl runs where their defense was really a liability.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's defense now is not wowing.
No, not at all.
So Green Bay's definitely not wowing.
So
the best defense left alive is probably Atlanta and KC.
Yeah.
Right, as of this moment of this taping.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm a little frustrated with the whole thing. I've been frustrated with football for a while. This parity thing, man, I think it's not as parity as they make it out to be. I'm gonna do some stats. I'm gonna do some research, and I'm gonna look at the championship game and see what teams have been in it the most frequently since 95 forward or 94 forward, whatever it was, and see. So that gives you 22 years, 21 years ish of teams to look at. I guarantee you those 21 years you'll see a major disparity of who dominated the appearances.
Well, that'll be a show to look forward to. Cowboys fans know that we have a good roster, and so we should expect this team to not have a 4-12 drop off. We should be back, and the draft, it's clear. Defense. You got to find a pass rusher. That's your number one goal. Pass rusher. You know.
Last thing I'll say on the game, we'll wrap it up with this, and you can give a quick rebuttal. They should have ran Elliott more. I know they were down 21-3 early, but they had so much time left. They took Zeke way out of They took him too far out of the game plan. They took him too far out of the game plan, in my opinion. They had enough time to not. I know he still ended up with decent stats. I know he probably had 20-something carries and 100-something yards, but he should have could have would have had 40 carries. I guarantee you, it'd be a different game. My opinion.
Well, I think there was a couple of situations where I would have preferred to run, but barring that, I didn't have too much of a problem with their offense. Just defense, you know, we needed you in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Thank you for showing up for the final 3 quarters, but your absence in the first quarter is what cost us the game. That's it.
I was looking forward to a Cowboys win, and I didn't get it. So, oh well. Over that.